بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Lady Aisha, may Allah accept her deeds, said in describing our Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, كان يحب الطيب ويأمر به. He used to love pleasant fragrance and he would urge for it to be used. Our discussion today is about the Prophet's fragrance alayhi salatu wassalam. The Prophet said in the hadith, حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِن دُنْيَاكُمْ الطِّيبُ وَالنِّسَاءُ وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. Fragrance and women are what have been made beloved to me of your worldly life, and the prayer has been made to be the delight of my eye. This means I, like men of normal disposition, naturally incline towards women and pleasant fragrances. So before engaging in our discussion about the Prophet's fragrance, let us pause a moment at this hadith. The Prophet's mentioning women is not because his heart was attached to women. God forbid. Indeed, attributing to the Messenger of Allah that he followed desires for women is something that takes one out of Islam, because this is a false, negative criticism of our Prophet Muhammad. And this is what no Muslim who loves this great, honorable leader, alayhi salatu wassalam, accepts. The Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam, married Lady Khadija when he was 25 years old, while she was a woman of 40 years old. This is something that happened during the prime of his youth. And for whoever did not know, the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam, did not marry another woman until Lady Khadija died, and he was close to 50 years old. Therefore, throughout the duration of his youth, the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam did not have multiple wives. So it is not permissible for it to be said that our Prophet's heart was exaggeratively attached to women, or that he was a womanizer. Both statements render the one who says them or believes them a non-Muslim. Amongst what further proves that is that our Master Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam did not marry a virgin other than Lady Aisha. May Allah accept her deeds. Moreover, the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam used to visit the Muslim cemetery to supplicate for the dead Muslims when it was her night. Had his heart been attached to women, he would have waited for the night of the youngest and most beautiful wife so that he can stay with her. However, the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wassalam used to wait for her turn so that he can visit the graveyard. If it were said, why did the Messenger of Allah have numerous wives, although his heart was not attached to women like that? The answer is that this was a command from Allah the Exalted, and it is for wisdom. Dear brothers and sisters, we should be ready to obey the commands of Allah the Exalted and not go beyond the limits set by Him. For indeed, had Allah the Exalted commanded us with something, we must stand in support of it and accept it, whether we knew the wisdom or not. Despite that, we were made aware of the wisdom of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam having numerous wives, and they are many wisdoms. Amongst them is that at that time, women learning from men was not something frequent. So the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wassalam wanted the religion to be spread amongst the women through the women, just as he spread it amongst the men. Likewise, it was the norm of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam to rectify the situation of two tribes by marrying a woman from each, and by that the religion would be spread in both tribes. Likewise, the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam wanted the people to know his circumstances when he was in his house. That is because of what some of the non-Muslims used to say about him, that he was a poet, or a fortune teller, or a magician, or a crazy man. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. We seek refuge with Allah from such injustice. In the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam having wives, there is evident proof of what we are saying, because the women in his household knew his situation, and they used to inform others that the Prophet ﷺ was not as those unjust people claimed. Rather, he was the noblest of people and the best of them. The Prophet ﷺ also wanted the rules of marriage to spread amongst the nation. That would sometimes be by teaching the rules and sometimes by his actions reported from his wives. And in our Prophet's house ﷺ, there was a pouch that had fragrance in it. Our Prophet ﷺ used to apply this fragrance to himself. The Messenger of Allah was always fragrant, whether he applied fragrance to his body or clothing or not. His servant Anas ibn Malik said, "I never touched any silk softer than the hand of the Messenger of Allah, and I never smelled any musk or amber more fragrant than the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." The Prophet would only apply it so that his fragrance would be even more fragrant, and so that the matter of applying fragrance would be a recommended practice for his nation. The Prophet ﷺ also taught that there are 3 things that one should not turn down, and amongst them is @-طيب, the fragrance. So if a person gifted fragrance to someone else, then the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is that it is not rejected. The Prophet ﷺ made it a practice for men to wear fragrance inside and outside of the house, and for the woman to wear it in her house for her husband. Fragrance is something recommended on Friday when going out for the Friday prayer, or for Eid prayer, or for a gathering of good, and when a man and his wife have sexual intercourse. Our Prophet ﷺ taught that it is recommended to put fragrance on the mustache, and fragrance is also usually put on the head and neck. The Prophet ﷺ used to love for himself and other believers that their nice smell be noticeable. For that reason, the Prophet ﷺ did not accept for someone who ate what is not fragrant, such as garlic, to be in the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ used to remove from the masjid whoever came in with his breath smelling like garlic. And the Prophet ﷺ did not used to eat from this plant. He would say, ﷺ, "Innani unaji man la tunajun." Indeed, I speak to whom you do not speak. He meant the angels, ﷺ. Certainly, the Prophet had nice breath, a nice body, nice clothing, and a nice smell. His situation was good, his time was blessed, and so were his actions, ﷺ. My beloved Messenger of Allah ﷺ taught us how we should be in and outside of the house. Lady Aisha, may Allah accept her deed, said, "I used to look at the glistening of the Prophet's fragrance on the dispersed hairs of the Messenger of Allah when he was in the state of ihram. This proves that the Prophet ﷺ liked putting on fragrance. Ya Rasulullah, if only we were there to be around you and smell this beautiful fragrance." We ask Allah Ta'ala to gather us with our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the Day of Judgment, and to grant us a high place in paradise. Ameen, and Allah knows best.